Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. This is Joe Kuchera with the Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, as we continue through the week. Second week in February, and actually looking to heading into our third week. Topics today I'm going to cover, and I think they're going to be good ones. The first part of the podcast is going to be the impact of homeownership on civic involvement. That's right, civic involvement. I know a lot of people say, home ownership is great because you build equity and you have home ownership and tax benefits. Those are certainly true, but there's other things that benefit neighborhoods, communities, states, counties that benefit from home ownership. So we're going to break that down. Talk a little bit about the homeownership and the civic involvement and how that helps the economy in different ways. Second part of the podcast, the statement, don't forget to involve your CPA and your financial planner when buying and selling a home or a property. A lot of people will jump and automatically get a real estate agent and someone like me to help them with their financing, which is great. You need that, but I am a big fan. And I will encourage people all the time to consult with your CPA and or financial planner, both of them. And if you don't have them, I could certainly recommend or refer. All right. Before we get started, just a reminder, I am here for you. Any purchase financing, refinancing. If you need any residential financing, I could help you with that. You could contact me at 408-838-9060, or you could email me, joe@reradiolive.com. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the impact of home ownership on civic involvement. What does that mean? Well, there's all kinds of things we talk about when buying a home and home ownership. Good for the neighborhood, good for your taxes, good for building equity, raising families, building equity, and also just a sense of ownership is a really good thing. I think most people would agree that if at all possible, home ownership is the way to go if you could do it. It's not meant for everybody. I understand that, but for the most part, it is a good thing to do. So let's kind of go through some of the things that you may not think about on the impact of the economy and some of the civic involvement when it comes to home ownership. So when you buy a home, you have a financial stake not only in that physical property, but you have a financial stake now in the neighborhood in which you bought that home. So if you bought a home 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, you now have a stake in that neighborhood. And someone might say, well, yes, but so what does that mean? That means you're typically going to want to try to meet your neighbors, become friends with your neighbors, acquaintance, get to know them. You might even have events. I know in several places that I've lived, there's large events during holidays, 4th of July, Halloween, a number of different things where the communities get together, and it's a sense of community. And that's one of the big things that I think a lot of people forget. I'm not suggesting it happens every single time and everybody's going to move into a perfect neighborhood, but that is a big deal. And so when you move into a neighborhood, you want to take care of your home. You want to be known as a good neighbor. You want to keep up your home. You want to meet the people. You want to have neighborhood watches. That's another thing that's really big. Crime is a serious issue in many different cities, especially larger cities. One of the nice things about a community neighborhood, people watching each other's backs, and they keep an eye on each other's homes. And technology's been good for that, too. A lot of you are on part of neighborhood neighborhood programs that you sign on for online, and there's, they call it different communities, or might even name the neighborhood or the city. In case, in our case here locally, Willow Glen, Los Gatos, Saratoga, different things have these back fence or kind of communication boards, if you will, where people just really discuss what's going on in that particular neighborhood and city. And those are all really good. And this is part of home ownership typically, and doesn't mean you, as a renter, you still are staying up on all the things that are going on. But it's again a big part of home ownership. So of course the ones building equity is certainly another one. Appreciation in your home, different areas. We've been fortunate here. Equity and appreciation over the last, if you look at historically, the last 30 or 40 years has been tremendous. I think on average it's somewhere around 7 to 10% a year. I think over the last 30 or 40 years. That could change depending on the surveys that you do, but it's profound, and it's quite a bit. Now, if you're looking at different areas, you're not always going to get that type of appreciation, but that is certainly one of the factors. Some of the other things that are interesting, some statistics, is that the homeowners found that they're more politically active than renters, for instance. And the surveys we're looking at here, which was done by Keeping Current Matters. They're a great data service that offers a lot of great material for us. It says that here renters homeowners were politically more active than renters, with 77% of homeowners saying that they had some point voted in local elections compared to renters of about 52%. And again, that's local. So this is just another local benefit potentially that people will usually take more concern of. If you have a home somewhere, typically you might get more involved politically, who the county assemblyman or person, maybe the mayor, a lot of people on the board, and a lot of different effects politically that they could potentially have in your neighborhood and city. So people get more involved politically. The statistics show that, and it bears that out. Also, there seems to be a greater awareness of political processing among homeowners. About 38% of homeowners knew the name of their local school board representative compared to about 20% of renters. So here again, it's about double. It's about 50% more of the homeowners surveyed knew the local school board representative versus about 20% of the renters. What does this mean again? You're probably more invested. It doesn't suggest that renters are not more invested, but when you're a homeowner, you put a stake in the ground, so to speak, and you physically own that property. And so the chances are, which probably doesn't surprise most people, that you are going to get more involved in many different areas. Also showed a higher incidence of membership in voluntary organizations such as churches and among other nonprofit types. So, for instance, there's a larger number of people volunteering for a lot of different organizations, charitable organizations, church organizations, different things like that. A higher percentage of homeownership gives. Again, this is all in an effort for most people that they want to get involved in their community. And these are a lot of subtle things that you may not think of that really impact home ownership. And when you become a prideful homeowner, in many cases, it really elevates the level of many different things in a community, in a neighborhood. And these are just some examples. Home ownership doesn't create, social capital. It provides residents with a platform which to connect to interact with neighbors. So it's just, I talked about that early on. The interacting with neighbors, the functions, the things that take place, a lot of the, I don't know if networking really is not the right word. That's more of a business word, but really just being part of a community, and as mentioned early in the podcast, getting to know your neighbors and building those friendships as well. And so overall, most of the governments, when we look at the government agencies, county agencies, everybody is really working hard, for the most part, to bring more awareness to home ownership and try to get the percentage of home ownership up. We had a large percent of home ownership, as most of you know, in the the late 1990s and then the 2000s. But then we had the big crash, 2008, 2009. Because, quite frankly, we got overspent, and there was a lot of people that were buying homes that never should have bought homes. So I hope that we learned that lesson. And I think we have in many different ways. I know that in the lending business that I'm in, we have learned from a lender's perspective, you don't loan money to people who cannot afford it and who cannot qualify and don't have the wherewithal or their means to do so. And so one of the things that is often complained about is how stringent and kind of time-consuming and just frustrating sometimes lending can be, and especially jumbo lending. And that's true. It can be, and it can seem, frustrating, cumbersome. But here's the part that's good about that, is that after what we all went through, a decade or so ago almost, when the collapse of the mortgage industry and the housing industry because people were buying homes and properties that shouldn't have, this type of underwriting, stringent underwriting and lending and scrutinizing in some cases really helps us in the long run, because the odds are when they lend to someone, they're going to be more responsible or more likely to not default on a loan or their payments if the individual or couple or whoever it is underwritten the correct way. In other words, there's parameters and guidelines. Either you can qualify for a loan or you can't. There's no gray area in this. Most of it's certain numbers. It's debt to income ratio. They have those numbers for a reason. If you exceed, say, 43 to 45% of your housing exceeds that in your gross income, then most likely you're not going to qualify with traditional financing because they don't want to take that risk. And you no longer could get 100% financing unless it's VA or some other special program that is suited for that. But again, you still have to qualify. That's the difference. Before, people weren't qualifying, which was bad enough. And then along came the 0% down and 100% financing, which really caused problems. All right, so that is it, the social impact on home ownership. We're going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about, remind everybody, don't forget about your CPA and financial planners in buying and selling property.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera, host of Real Estate Radio Live and Bay Area Mortgage Planner. In addition to being your home financing expert, please remember you could always contact me for other trusted advisors such as realtors, financial planners, and CPAs. Please feel free to contact me at 408-838-9060. That's 408-838-9060, or email joe at reradiolive.com, or visit my website at reradiolive.com for more details.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in, Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, as we continue our podcast today. First one was on kind of the social economical impacts on owning property, and that was a good topic, I think, and I wanted to share it with everybody now. The second part of the podcast, I'm going to talk about, or just make the statement and just really hopefully get the message out that don't forget to involve your financial planner and CPA when you are buying or selling property. I know the obvious choices are, I need to find someone like myself that finances and get your financing in place, get pre-approved, get ready to finance that property or sell and buy. On the other side, you're also looking for the right real estate agent, which is important to find the right one. And that's fine. But what I find sometimes is people forget to consult with their CPA and financial planner. If you don't have one, I would strongly suggest that I don't care if you're buying a home for the first time or it's a move-up or it's an investment property, or it doesn't matter. I am a big fan of making sure that you intellectually check the boxes off on all the different things it takes to with buying and selling property. Oftentimes, especially if it's a primary residence, it tends to be an emotional decision, and you have to be careful of that. You want to love the house, of course, or like the house that you buy, but you also want to be smart about how you buy it. Do you have enough money? Are you putting enough down? What if you put more down? What if you put less down? What are the tax ramifications on that? What are the benefits of write-off? Where are you getting the down payment? Is it coming from your 401k? Is it coming from your savings? Are you borrowing from another investment vehicle? Are you getting it from your parents, your grandparents, an inheritance? Here are all the different things that come up when buying a property that you should sit down and talk to your CPA about and make sure, okay, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm going to buy a home. We want to put this much down. This is what we're thinking. And just go through the dialogue, go through the check boxes. And you'll be surprised, good CPAs are going to have some advice for you. Now, you might sit down with he or she and they say, great, you've looked at everything. You've done a tremendous job with your due diligence. I agree. Go ahead and move forward. However, you might get some advice from them you didn't know about on taxes, on write-offs, especially on purchases. When you buy and sell property, you really have to be careful of what you're doing tax-wise. When you refinance, it's a little bit different. There's not a whole lot of tax benefits in refinancing. Now, if you're, refinancing, pulling money out, putting it back into your house, there's some different things to keep in mind, depending on if it's a rental property and, those types of things. But more so on when you sell your home and then you go purchase another home, really, really important. Or you sell your home and you don't purchase another home, you rent for a while. There's all these different reasons why you should consult with your CPA and then also your financial planner. Someone might be saying, well, why a financial planner? Well, I've worked with a financial planner, personally with my own investments for, 20 years, and I see the benefits of having him as a resource, a consultant, an advisor. That's what you have them for. They're managing your money, and so when you make decisions in and around money, you want to bring it up and have conversations with your financial planner to find out how it might affect your overall approach to retirement, to investing. Some people might say, again, well, Joe, this is simple. I'm selling my home. I'm getting $300,000 from the sale. I'm putting it down on the next purchase, and it's that simple. It's probably simple, and it sounds simple, but again, what if, I'll give you some examples of why there might be a difference. What if you sell your house and you get $300,000 and you buy the next house that needs some work? Do you put the whole $300,000 down, or do you put $250,000 down and save $50,000 for some upgrades, or $100,000, or do you do a first and second loan to avoid mortgage insurance? Do you do a first and second loan? I have some people that do this, for example. I've advised them if, they're making a purchase, and this happens sometimes, is here in the Silicon Valley. Someone will say, Joe, all I have is $300,000 to put down. I'm buying this $1.3 million house, or whatever the example is I'm using here. But they'll tell me I'm coming into some stock options, or I'm going to have some cash for $200,000 or $300,000. I don't have it now, but I need to buy this house. Perfect. What we'll do is restructure, and we'll do a first loan, and we'll do a second loan, say for $200,000. If the strategy is they want to come in 6 months or a year from now or something, and they're going to have $200,000, they want to be able to use that on their home to pay down their mortgage. The perfect strategy then is to set up that purchase so that they end up with a $200,000 second, even though they don't need it. You want to do a $200,000 second for them because they'll be able to come in and wipe that out, take it out, and then they end up with a long-term fixed, possibly, on their first loan. Now, one of the other things you can do, a lot of people aren't aware of, and most lenders do this, but you have to be careful. Most lenders will allow a one-time principal reduction to your loan balance and re-amortize it so it affects your payment. So let me explain how this works. Typically, if you have a loan amount, let's say you borrow $500,000, and you're making your payment. Let's say the payment's, $2,000 a month for sake of this conversation. And every once in a while, you put an extra $1,000 in because you want to pay more principal. Your payment doesn't change. Your $2,000 payment stays the same. Okay? That's the downside to paying more. The upside is that you're going to pay off your loan sooner, and that will take place as time goes on. However, a lot of people don't know this. Most lenders will allow a one-time principal reduction, and they will allow a one-time recast. So, example, you have a $500,000 loan, and you come into a $100,000 inheritance, and you think, you know what, I'm going to retire in 10 years. I'm going to try to accelerate the payoff of this loan. And you call your lender and you say, listen, I understand there's provision out there that some lenders will allow that, so they will go in, you'll pay that $100,000, you buy it down to $400,000, and here's the good part: most of them will allow a one-time reduction and recast. Well, that recast is important because if you put $100,000 down, you want to change your payment too. You want a lower monthly payment, right? So a lot of lenders will allow that. So let's say you have a $500,000 loan with a $2,000 a month payment. You come in and you put $100,000 down, you buy it down to $400,000, and now that changes your payment to, say, $1,600 a month. Well, that's $400 a month difference that money is now working for you, and you could use that money in another area. These are the types of things a lot of people don't think about. So if you work with me, I talk about these things all the time. And if it makes sense, especially here in the Silicon Valley where people are very creative in making money and getting money and money that comes in at certain different times and stock options and restricted stock and all these different things, you have to be creative and you have to be open-minded to really the options available in financing. So get your CPA and your financial planner involved when you make a buy or a sell on real estate. It's just imperative. Now, if you don't have a CPA or a financial planner, give me a call. I have wonderful CPAs and financial planners I could refer. Or call someone you trust. Your real estate agent may have someone that you work with in the past may have some good referrals for you. But these are all really important aspects of home ownership. I'm a big believer, if you've listened to my show for the last nearly 7 years now on the radio and podcast, is that I'm a big believer of having a team approach and a group of consultants, if you will, that will help make financial decisions. You know, I talk a lot on this show about our advocacy, and our objective is to help people make wise decisions in and around their finances, or I should say their real estate transactions. We don't expect you to be an expert. What we'd like to do is educate and inform you so that you have enough information where you feel confident in reaching out to those like myself and other people that are experts in this area, so you could trust people to help you make those decisions. Again, that's a really important factor here. We don't expect you to be experts. Some people love real estate, love financing, and they become experts even though it's not their career, and that's great. But most people are practicing another profession or business or career, and you don't have time to become an expert. That's what we're here for. So tap into our resources. I'm a big fan of really the team approach. And what I mean by team, I'll real quickly go over the people I think you should have and trust. You should have someone like myself on the lending side. You should have a real estate agent that you trust. You should have a financial planner. And you should have a CPA. Those are really the four main components, I think, in a team. Now, as an extended team, I think you should have relationships with someone in the insurance business, and also maybe, if you do a lot of rental property, you might want rental managers, you might want a real estate attorney, those type of people to have as part of your team, because things get more involved when you rent property, especially if you have multiple properties. So those things come up, and I would suggest building yourself a team for sure. So, again, just to summarize real quickly, do not forget about your financial planner and CPA when you buy or sell a property. As always, if you need any referrals, I have a great team of people in the real estate area, the financial planning area, CPAs, real estate attorneys, insurance. We cover all areas here, and we're here to help guide you and give any kind of advice we can. All right, that about wraps things up. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to download those podcasts. Go to reradiolive.com or iTunes. Until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com.